Davis is remembered with this center, and we're pleased to have the press conference here today. Today, Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds and I are here at the Evelyn K. Davis Center for Working Families to announce the creation of the Minority Unemployment Subcommittee of the State of Iowa Workforce Development Board. The subcommittee's work will align with and support the work of Future Ready Iowa Alliance. Minority unemployment rates are higher than the state average. According to the latest census information for Iowa, African Americans had an unemployment rate of 14.2%. Hispanic Americans had a rate of 8.1%. Asian Americans had an unemployment rate of 5.3%. Pacific Islanders a rate of 13.6%, and Native Americans had a rate of 11%. But the overall Iowa unemployment rate was 3.9%. It's actually now down to 3.6%. The goal of this subcommittee is clear and measurable: to reduce the unemployment rates in minority communities by 5% or to the state average in the next 5 years. It is unacceptable that we have a huge disparity between our average unemployment rate and the rate of our minority communities. We must be focused on our efforts to address this issue, and the creation of the Minority Unemployment Subcommittee by the State Workforce Development Board is an important step. The subcommittee will raise awareness of available programs, including registered apprenticeships. The subcommittee will look for ways to better align and connect minority communities with workforce training opportunities while addressing the achievement gap. The subcommittee intends to use 4 counties as pilot communities, those counties being Polk, Dubuque, Blackhawk, and Pottawatomie. The counties were selected based on having high concentrations of minority communities and high unemployment rates within those communities. It intends to have listening tours in the 4 pilot counties in the spring. They also will provide opportunities for members and leaders of the community to gather a broad perspective and identify connections and influences within the communities. This subcommittee was created after initial conversations between former Representative and Executive Director of Urban Dreams, Wayne Ford, who's here, and Iowa Workforce Development Director, Beth Townsend. Last spring, Mr. Ford presented minority unemployment information to the State Workforce Development Board, raising this critical issue. Now I'd like to turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds, who's co-chair of the Future Ready Iowa Alliance, to talk about the makeup of the subcommittee and how it aligns with the work of Future Ready Iowa. Kim?
Good morning, and thank you, Governor Branstad. And I believe that the work of this diverse group of leaders who are committed to working collaboratively to raise Iowa family incomes and contribute to a thriving economy is really essential to fulfill the promise of the Future Ready Iowa initiative. The subcommittee includes Wayne Ford, Joshua Barr with the Director of the Des Moines Civil Rights Commission, Mayor Quentin Hart from Waterloo, Marvin DeGier, Executive Director of the Evelyn K. Davis Center, and also a member of the Future Ready Iowa Initiative, Alex Pedraz, Multicultural Director, Grandview University, Ms. Tava Hakoli, Sac and Fox Tribe of the Mississippi and Iowa, Carl Castle, Horizon Family Service Alliance, Steve Dust, who is with the Greater Cedar Valley Alliance and Chamber, Mike Ralston, Jessica Harder, who is with ABI, Director Townsend, Courtney Maxwell Green, Corey Kelly, and Ben Humphrey, who is with the Iowa Workforce Development, Director Wong with Human Rights, Irma Seo, Iowa Department of Education, and Tim Perkins with the Iowa Communication on Native American Affairs. The subcommittee will be chaired by State Workforce Board Member Andy Roberts, Business Manager, Local 33 Plumbers and Steam Fitters. State Workforce Board Member Carrie Duncan will also serve on the subcommittee. Following the listening tours, the subcommittee intends to formulate a strategic plan to achieve the goal of reducing minority unemployment by 5% in 5 years. The members will collaborate with the Future Ready Iowa Alliance, that will align the recommendations with the Alliance strategic plan. Lower high school graduation rates contribute to higher minority unemployment rates. And in 2015, Asian American students had a graduation rate of 92.7. African American students had a graduation rate of 79.2%, Native American students 85.6, Hispanic students 82.8, and when you compare that to the overall graduation rate of 92.4%. So completing high school and post-secondary training or certification for minority communities must be addressed as part of the overall strategy to help us reach our 70% goal with the Future Ready Iowa initiative. Reducing Iowa's minority unemployment rate will best be achieved by engaging Iowa business community, education leaders, economic developers, and leaders and members of Iowa's minority communities. Together, I do believe that this is an achievable goal it's absolutely necessary to the continued growth and prosperity of all Iowans in this great state. And so now I'd like to bring to the podium Director Beth Townsend with the Iowa Workforce Development. Beth?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Reynolds and Governor Branstad, for being here today for this very important announcement. I want to thank my friend Wayne Ford for starting this conversation, and to the other committee members who all jumped in to move this worthy endeavor forward. Begin with renewed energy and commitment, Iowa's efforts to increase employment in minority communities. This effort will demonstrate Iowa's longstanding commitment to the promotion of equality of all citizens. It demonstrates our commitment to achieving the goal of Future Ready Iowa. It demonstrates Iowa's commitment to continued economic development and by providing Iowa's employers, both current and potential, with a diverse and skilled workforce. It's only fitting that we should be here at the Evelyn K. Davis Center for Working Families to kick off this work. Mrs. Davis dedicated her life to ensuring equal opportunities for families in Des Moines by opening a child care center in the 60s and then expanding it to provide medical services, and then to a center today that provides educational programs, job training, and prospects for a brighter future for Des Moines working families. Along with Governor Branstad and Lieutenant Governor Reynolds, the State Workforce Board is committed to ensuring that Iowa has a skilled workforce that it needs, and that all Iowans know about and take advantage of the training and employment opportunities that exist in Iowa. I now want to turn it over to Dr. Marvin DeJour, the director of the Evelyn K. Davis Center for Working Families.
Good morning. I would first like to thank Governor Branstad, Lieutenant Governor Reynolds, and Director Townsend for recognizing the disparities that minority communities are facing in Iowa around employment. I want to thank them for taking immediate actions and understanding that Iowa's future prosperity depends on closing the skills gap by ensuring that all Iowans have the requisite training, education to earn a good living and correspondingly contribute to the quality of life in their communities and the state. I would like to thank former Representative Wayne Ford on his continued fight to ensure that all minority communities in Iowa enjoy all the opportunities that Iowa has to offer. I know that other minority representatives, such as Representative Abdul Samad, Representative Gaines, Representative Miller, and others will continue to fight for future initiatives for the ever-growing diverse populations in the state of Iowa. This issue is but one of many issues that minority communities are facing in Iowa. The creation of this intentional subcommittee to address this issue is one of the top priorities that all public, private, and nonprofit leaders and organizations should be addressing now versus later. We cannot afford to wait to address this issue and other disparities that minority communities are facing in Iowa in another 5 or 10 years. Projected that Iowa will add over 6,000 jobs between now and 2025. And this workforce, 68% of them have to make sure that they have some form of post-secondary education. In order to have the workforce needed by 2025, we have to continue to be more intentional, ensuring that diverse populations of Iowa, which by the way are the fastest growing populations in Iowa, are receiving the necessary training needed for Iowa to be successful. The diverse populations attending our state community colleges is growing, and to ensure their success and to have clear and understanding about their career pathways needed for the workforce that Iowa needs, we have to be more intentional about their success. The need for public, private, and nonprofits, including the faith communities, to work together and be intentional on ensuring that diverse communities in Iowa are successful is now. And the only way for Iowa to remain a leader in the future is to embrace this diversity and continue to be a leader as it is shown throughout history, to be a model for others in the country to follow and providing opportunities for minorities. Thank you for your time and stay blessed.
Okay, we'd open it for questions on this subject first. Yes, sir.
So since wellness affects work performance, could workplace wellness become a bigger part of workforce development?
Absolutely. Workforce wellness in the workforce is really important. You probably are aware that for the last several years, we've been working with the private sector on something we call the goal to make Iowa the healthiest state in the nation. This was really initiated by the private sector, including leadership from companies like Wellmark, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Hy-Vee, as well as the governor's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. And the lieutenant governor and I have endorsed and supported that. And one of the things that we've encouraged is doing health risk assessments. When I was at Des Moines University, we did that for all faculty, staff, and students. And that's a great way to identify what your own personal health risks are, and then to work to reduce those risks. And by reducing those healthcare risks, people can live healthier lives and also reduce their healthcare costs. Yes.
Do you envision, I guess, number one, promising any state money for this or federal money for this, identifying any federal money for initiating any programs for this, as opposed to what's because there's many things like
Right.
this already out there. What would be done differently with this?
Well, obviously, we're just appointing this group right now, and they may come up with specific recommendations and ideas. There are, as you're aware, a number of different grants that are available, both from federal government and also sometimes from private sector groups. And some of the people in the business community are interested, as we've seen great broad-based support from the business community and the nonprofit community with regard to our goal of being the healthiest state. I think this is another area with the need for people with the right skills in the workforce, and with growing minority populations in the state. I think it's critically important for us to do this in order to meet our goal of having the workforce that meets the goal of 70% having education training beyond high school and having the skills to fill the jobs of the future.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I was going to add, was that's the whole impetus behind the Future Ready Iowa initiative, to really take a look at all of the programs and opportunities that are out there and coordinate and align those opportunities, and then scale best practices, working with economic development, education, and then the business community to ensure that Iowans have the skills that they need to fill the jobs of today, let alone the jobs of tomorrow. So this is just another really big component, I think, on helping us reach that goal of having 70% of Iowans have education or certification beyond high school by 2025.
And as my good friend Wayne likes to tell us, we have sufficient programs to meet these goals. We just need to do a better job of connecting minority communities to the available programs, so that we don't need to reinvent the wheel or create a new program. We need to do a better job of communicating and outreach with those communities.
Other questions? Yes.
Governor Shortheimer, how many 5-year goals are you going to set?
Yeah, they used that term when I was in the Army. Yeah.
Why are you setting 5-year goals when you're on your way out?
Well, this has always been a team effort, and the lieutenant governor is, of course, co-chair of Future Ready Iowa. And I've always said that you don't do these things by yourself. But, I guess I bring some continuity because I knew Evelyn Davis, and an inspirational woman that really made a difference, especially for minority kids. And this is really designed to make sure that the minority kids that grow up in Iowa have great opportunities to have successful and rewarding careers here.
How do organizations connect with the state on helping out with assessments?
They can contact Iowa Workforce Development, and we can put them in touch with the subcommittee. The State Workforce Board works very hard to make sure that we're fully integrated. We also, through Workforce Development, are in obviously very good connection with the Future Ready Iowa initiative and with the partners that we're working with on that initiative. So we can make the connections that are necessary to make sure that those groups have the information and resources they need.
Governor, would you agree that the high school graduation rate is one of the lowest?
Actually, we have the highest graduation rate of any state in the nation.
No, I mean for design.
Yes, we are concerned that the graduation rate for minorities is not what it should be. And that's certainly one of the things we want to do, but it's not just graduating from high school, as the Future Ready Iowa goal is that 70% of the workforce would have education and training beyond high school. So things like apprenticeships and community college training for specific skills that prepare people for really good jobs. I've recommended computer science be available in all of our schools because this is critically important for the jobs of the future as well. So we got to look at this kind of in a holistic way, but it's certainly important that we recognize that unfortunately minorities have not graduated at the same level as others. And we're proud of Iowa's graduation rate. We just want to see it more uniform, and we want to see a higher graduation rate among minorities as well. Other questions on this subject?
Director DeGier, you made a call to embrace cultural diversity. What sort of effect has the president's executive orders had on your clientele? And is there some concern there? And do you see that happening your efforts to get Iowa to?
I would say the work we've been able to accomplish here at the center and other initiatives around this has been a collaborative effort. So it's not just one piece that tests or not. So I would say as long as we continue to work together as we have with public, private, and within the community, really pulling together, regardless of actions taken at administrative or different levels, the work we do here is where everybody working together. So our collaborative effort will continue to keep going forward as we have.
In your clientele, has there been concerns expressed to you, to your staff? We hear a lot of different issues and concerns by our clients that come through the door. We've heard some, everybody's a little nervous on some levels, but at the end of the day, our job here is to ensure that everybody understands that the opportunities they have, they can continue to seek, and we can continue to help them move forward as far as being able to accomplish those goals. So again, what we do here is a collaborative effort. And at the end of the day, we make sure that everybody has an opportunity regardless of what's going on outside in the community.
Other questions? I guess if there are no more on this subject, we'll take them on other subjects as well this morning.
As far as public schedule this week, how many hours a day are you prepping for?
As of now, we have completed the paperwork. And now I suspect the FBI will be out there interviewing people that I've lived next to or worked with and all this other stuff. Then obviously at some point in time, I will be invited to come before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I'm still focused on my job as governor. I have not done any extraordinary preparation. I do have different groups that have concerns and interests in trade in China. And so I've been meeting with those groups. And I will be at some point in time going into DC, and they have a special group that prepares people for meeting with the committees like the one I'm going to be going before. And if you watch the hearings, they ask a lot of tough questions, but I do these press conferences every week, so I'm used to handling tough questions, I guess. Yes, sir.
Governor, there's at least a half a dozen legislators that are talking about changing, either eliminating daylight savings time or keeping it year-round. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I don't think we should do anything that puts us out of sync with the rest of the country. I think that would cause a lot of confusion and problems. So I think really the daylight savings issue needs to be addressed at the national level. I don't think it would make sense for Iowa to do something that's different than our neighboring states here in the central time zone.
Purchase task force that met in the interim and they've issued their recommendations and legislation implementing those. Would you support that legislation?
Well, first of all, I want to compliment Steve Larson and Debbie Durham and all the people that worked on that task force. Some of our laws involving beer and alcoholic beverages date back to the end of Prohibition in about 1934. And I think they're, in some cases, archaic and outdated and need to be updated. There's some economic development opportunities that we're missing out on because of the restrictions that we have in the law. I do understand the three-tier system and the importance of maintaining that, but I also think we need to be looking at how it can be modernized and how we can help some of these distilleries and other new businesses that have located in our state to be able to grow and create jobs here. We don't want to lose them to other states.
Governor, the House is expected to debate the education funding bill, 1.1%. That's below what you recommended. Do you support it? Will you be signing that as well?
Well, I understand they're going to have a public hearing and then they're going to debate that bill today. I'm appreciative of the fact that for the first time in many years, the legislature is going to set supplemental state aid in the first 30 days of the session. It's not as much as I recommended. I also recommended they do the second year. I understand why the legislature wants to see the March revenue estimate before setting the second year for supplemental state aid. And I know there's an interest in doing some things in addressing some of the disparities in the school aid formula that could provide some additional money to K through 12 education. I'm appreciative that the legislature did approve my recommendations that no deappropriation occur public education as part of the deappropriation bill, which I've already signed. So we'll continue to work with the legislature on these issues, and I'm appreciative that they are not fighting over this through the whole session, and hopefully we'll see it approved here in the near future and within the 30 days.
As a quick follow-up to that, there's, if there is extra money in the end, after March revenue estimates, or there's just, because one of the arguments from Republicans is they wanted to set a budget that was responsible when it came to K through 12 education spending. But if there's money that's extra, should they put that back towards K through 12 education?
Well, as you know, I recommended 2% for fiscal year 2018-19. I'm hopeful that will be addressed after the March revenue estimate comes in. I understand their concern as to, you remember what happened last year. Last year, I recommended supplemental state aid at 2.45%. The legislature fought over that until March. Then the revenue estimate came in and they had to reduce spending by law by 46 million. They ended up, Democratic Senate, Republican House agreed on 2.15, below what I'd recommended. Now, I think there are some that are concerned that March revenue estimate, in light of what's happened, March, October, December revenue estimates were all reduced, that could happen again this year. I'm hopeful that doesn't. But once the March revenue estimate is in, hopefully then they can address both the issue of supplemental state aid for 2018 and 19 and some of the other issues they're interested in addressing, such as education education choice, as well as the 2018-19 and some of the reforms that some have advocated in the school aid formula.
Governor, there's going to be a big rally of public employees at the Rotunda tomorrow. They're concerned about what may be happening to collective bargaining in the state. There's a lot of those folks are saying that collective bargaining work well in Iowa. There's some labor peace. What are your thoughts about it? What should be done?
Well, I think we have an antiquated law that needs to be updated. Your paper has written quite a bit about the fact that we have some employees in state government that the taxpayers are paying. If they have a family plan, they're paying over $23,000 for their health insurance. and the public employees only paying $20 a month. I've been trying to change that through the bargaining process for years. We've not been able to get that done. Arbitrators have not let that happen. And also, a lot of county, cities, and school districts have had some really bad things happen. If they have 2 or 3 people that have adverse health problems, their insurance premiums go through the roof. So I've suggested that we take health care out of the mandatory bargaining area, because I think there can be substantial savings. And by having employees having some skin in the game, we can work together on reducing costs, which will free up more money for wages and other things that are needed.
Governor, I actually checked the website right before our conference and press conference, and there's no legislation filed just yet. There's, with education funding and even the Senate file too on Planned Parenthood, there's been some criticism about fast tracking some of these bills, where with education funding in the Senate, we skipped the subcommittee during the committee level. And then with Planned Parenthood, we made the debate very short, half hour in subcommittee, hour debate in committee form. If there's legislation is filed today or tomorrow or this week, do you expect it to go through the normal legislative process? That takes potentially several days, several weeks, has ability to comment on the bill.
Well, first of all, I want to compliment the legislature on putting education funding on a fast track and not cutting K through 12 education in the first bill that passed the de-appropriation bill. So I think they've acted very responsibly on that. And I think that is important. And schools have been saying for years that they want a decision and they want to know what they can expect. With regard to collective bargaining, you may recall when I came in as governor, I got stuck with a contract that the previous governor, even though he was a lame duck and I defeated him, just agreed to the union's demand. And we were stuck with that for 2 years. And then I have bargained in good faith and continue to bargain in good faith. But it's very clear that the present system has not worked for the taxpayers. When you have public employees, they're getting these Cadillac benefits and paying virtually nothing, $20 a month, and the taxpayers are paying, in some cases, over $23,000. It's not fair. It's not right. It needs to be addressed, and that's why we're going to continue to work with the legislature and with the labor committees in both houses to address it.
I'm not sure if that answered the question, Jeff, though. If legislation is introduced this week, as if there's rumors that it might, do you expect it to go through the more regular legislative process of a subcommittee, 24-hour waiting period, a committee, and then ensuring that people have...
Well, first of all, I think you know from my past history that I respect the legislature and their processes, and I do not try to, I'm the chief executive. Responsibility to tell the legislature what their rules and procedures should be. I do want to continue to work with them, and we have been working with them, and we've had many discussions with the leadership and with the committees on these matters, and I respect and appreciate the prerogative the legislature has in terms of their processes.
Would it be helpful for the Attorney General to issue a ruling on the order of secession and some of the questions that Senator Johnson raised?
Well, I think it's the law. That first of all, the Constitution is clear and the law is clear that in the case of the death, resignation, or disability of the governor, lieutenant governor becomes the governor. And a law, I think, was passed in 2009 that said that in the event of a vacancy in the lieutenant governor's office, the governor makes the appointment. That's pretty clear as can be, and I don't think there's any question about that.
Rod's in the back. He's got the last question.
Okay.
We gotta go.
State address, you talked about distracted driving. The Department of Public Safety says you support going to banning handheld devices. Is that your position? Because I've not heard you state that.
Yes, I do support a hands-free requirement. And here's my concern. If all we do is say you can't text and drive, how do you prove that somebody was texting? They could be looking at this device in their hands and say, well, but I wasn't texting. And so then you can't get a conviction. We had the death toll go up from 315 to over 400. I believe we got to take this distracted driving thing seriously. You go down 235 and you'll see all kinds of distracted drivers. It's a dangerous situation. And I want to see us address both the drivers that are under the influence as well as distracted drivers as part of an overall strategy to improve highway safety in our state.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.